Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. For those of you who are coming back, welcome back. And for those of you who are here for the first time, my show is about celebrating. It's about celebrating artists and their body of worth. What makes a great artist? How do they get from point A to point B and beyond? And we have several great artists that we're going to celebrate tonight, as well as a great off-Broadway musical that has seen a life beyond off-Broadway. Even in New Orleans, there's a new production that's scheduled to open next year, believe it or not, in Canada, which we will talk about. The show, of course, is Boobs, the musical. Now, some of you may not know anything about Boobs, the musical, but it's based on the music of Ruth Wallace. She was a cabaret performer in the 1950s and 60s who had very naughty songs. As a matter of fact, she was banned on many radio stations around the country, but she managed to get her songs out there. And of course, this came to the attention of all of the people that will be on our show tonight. Now, our first guest tonight, who is always worth celebrating, is Lawrence Leritz, and I am so thrilled that he reached out to me a few months ago to say that this was an idea that he had mulling around. Lawrence not only was the choreographer for this musical, but he was also one of the producers. So, Lawrence, I am thrilled that you're here tonight. I'm thrilled that you are still celebrating Ruth Wallace. I want to ask you, first of all, today marks 433 days since our theater shut down. And I want to ask, how are you doing really in the midst of this crazy world? I know that I ran into you just before COVID knocked us out of the park, and you were very excitedly talking about a Canadian production of Boobs. Hopefully that's...
At Joe Allen's.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talked about that night. So how have you been, by the way?
Like everybody else, the first part of the shutdown was horrendous. I had just started having production meetings on a show that I was choreographing with my friend Edward Villella for the ensemble for the New Century. And it had an all-Broadway cast, fantastic production, and we're assuming it's going to start up again shortly.
It has to.
That was my last memory. You keep going back to your last memory this whole time when you're like locked in your apartment. But over the last month, I started working on some TV shows again, and so I'm alive again, and here we are to celebrate Boobs the musical.
Well, we're not going to talk about your last memory. We're going to talk about your first memory, and it's your first memory of Boobs, Ruth Wallace. Which came first for you, and if you'll pardon the expression, Boobs or Ruth Wallace?
Actually, Mitch Douglas.
May he rest.
The agent.
We love him.
Did you know? You knew Mitch.
I knew Mitch very well, yes.
Sadly, he passed away in November, I believe. And Ruth Wallace had called Mitch Douglas cold at ICM. And for those of you who don't know what ICM is, it was one of the two major agencies at the time in New York City. And he was a major literary agent. So she called and she said, "You don't know me, but my name is Ruth Wallace, and I'm a little old lady who lives in Connecticut, and I've written these musicals based on my songs." And Mitch Douglas sang back in entirety the Dingy song to her.
Which we're going to play in a few moments.
And she was crying. She was, "Oh, I can't believe you know who I am." And so he said, "Well, send me your materials." And he sent this. She sent this one like proposal, basically a couple of pages of a show called Boobs. So Mitch contacted Michael Whaley, rest in peace, um, and Stephen Mackus about writing a new book for this. And then Michael Whaley contacted me and said, "Would you be interested in producing this? And I will help you produce." So that's how it was born.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked on it maybe for like a year, and we got a workshop going, very humble workshop. It was really a showcase, but
Mm-hmm.
we call it the workshop on 42nd Street at a place called the Ensemble Theater.
The Pulse Ensemble
The
Theater.
Pulse Ensemble Theater, and it was very inexpensive, which was very attractive to us at the time. And J. Robert Spencer, who I call Bobby, was in that cast, and he was phenomenal. That particular
Well, it
cast.
so happens that he's here tonight. So since you mention him, once he gets himself centered, we will bring him on. And just to let you know, you are muted, Robert. So you may want to.
Hello.
Hello.
From Portland, Oregon.
Hey.
Hi. Hi. Sorry, guys.
Are you Robert or Bobby tonight?
I am
Robert, right?
Tony Award winner. Nominated actor.
Okay.
J. Robert Spencer.
J. Robert Spencer.
Yes. No,
It
Bobby.
works for me. Welcome. Good to see you.
You know, everyone watching at home, I missed sound check, and I apologize. I'm like Mr. Mom here today. I was just picking up the kids and just setting up the microphone. So anyway, I'm here. I'm glad to be here. Keep talking, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Jenny-Lynn's not around today.
I know
right?
she's a photographer. You know, she's out being a
Oh,
photographer.
I didn't know that.
She has a great eye, and she has. And one of our close friends has had her engaged to come over to photograph the entire family, and it's kind of a special occasion. She just couldn't get out of it. But regardless, you know, she sends her love.
Oh, I adore her. Anyway, Robert and Jenny-Lynn were both in the workshop, and they were very instrumental. Everybody who was in that cast into creating what Boobs the Musical would become. I would say probably 85% of what happened in the workshop became the production of Boobs the Musical. When we transferred to the Triad, we had to cut quite a few things and make some book changes, and we added several new musical numbers. But the energy that they gave to the workshop production lasted until today. And I was talking to Robert this week, and I said, "You have no idea how important you were to the production," because it's true. And I'm glad, like, cast with the Hamilton cast now being financially rewarded for being in the original cast, there's a great deal of truth to that, because the actors add so much to what really happens to the final product. So I'm really happy to see that.
So it's not only what's going on the stage, Robert. I mean, having performed at the Triad so many times, if you can tell everyone what that dressing room situation is like. And this was a show that had a lot of costume changes.
Well, it actually had a ton of costume changes, and the great thing about that particular show, just kind of sidetrack, is that we were all able to just be kids and to really have fun and let loose. And the fact that Ruth Wallace was a very risque Doris Day, and that she had written these lyrics was fine for us to go, okay, well, if she's okay with writing this, performing this, and having been a star in the underground and the clubs for all these years, then then I'm totally cool with amping this up. And all of us just got up there, and for me, I've always been a comedic actor way before a dramatic actor. So the chance that I got to play at least 12 different crazy characters through this entwining music of Ruth Wallace, that was so much fun for all of us. And so, Lawrence, the thing I've been trying to remember looking backwards in time, yes, you asked about the Triad. Richard, I didn't do it at the Triad. I had, at that point, I think I was in California doing the La Jolla production of Jersey Boys. But prior to that, when we were at the Pulse, yeah, it was the Pulse. I thought it was the John Houseman, but it was the Pulse.
Next door.
Yes. But we had so much fun. But the rehearsal space is what I remember. I remember walking down this really skinny, because I'm trying to remember everything about it. The skinny hallway and the skinny staircase, to get to this small, rehearsal room. And we all just, there was a piano and we had so much laughter. I remember so much laughter and having to just invent, in a lot of ways, what was on the printed page and not only bring to life what they had written on the printed page, but just think in your head, okay, I think this is really funny. I hope they do too. And generally, they did. They thought it was funny what we were doing. Not just me, but everybody involved with that production. So
when did you come into the production?
Right at the get-go, right at the beginning stages of it. Mm-hmm. And I recall, Lawrence, you might remember this too, that Jenny and I, no one knew we were dating. We had met in Sideshow. And we were dating, and we have very, very similar voices. Our voices pocket really well together when we sing. But we auditioned for this show. It's totally separate times, totally separate days. Yeah. And when it came time for them to cast, they had 3 men and 3 women. And they based it off of not just talent, but also like the sound of the voices. And they were like, well, Bobby and this woman, Jenny, would sound amazing together. And then we get in the production, we're like, yeah, no, we're totally together. We're dating. They were like, you are? We had no idea. It was just the whole, the fates, the stars were in alignment. But
you both gave stellar auditions, and Michael.
I can't remember my audition though. Oh that's God, the thing. I can't remember it.
There are 2 people.
Well, Robert, when you auditioned for this, did you know anything about Ruth Wallace prior to this?
I had read, obviously, there had to have been some kind of breakdown, but we found more about her through the research, just through everyone involved with Lawrence and everyone else involved that knew the history of her. So it was really a thrill to bring out the herstory and the music and lyrics of this. This amazing story that a lot of people don't know about, and it's one of those great things about our world, which is just when you think you've heard or you know everything, someone like Ruth Wallace comes across, you go, you know what, this is really funny, when her opening line is, you gotta have boobs if you want to impress, diamonds and rubes, you need boobs to fill out a sweater. You need 2, but 3 might be better. It's like, and you read this, you go, that's hilarious, So it gives you the freedom to know, okay, if she has given us permission to play fun and have fun with this, then let's have all the fun we can with it.
And she was doing this at a time where women just did not do this.
No, absolutely not. That's why it's one of those cool stories for people to find out about, because we're like, what, someone was really doing something like this? It's one thing if you got a guy like Lenny Bruce, right? Everybody knows about Lenny Bruce, pushing the envelope, yada, yada, yada. Well, if Mae West and Doris Day had a baby, it would have been Ruth Wallace,
Well, let's share one of the numbers from the show. You both know this song very well. You'll see this, and we'll meet the actress involved on the other side. So here we are.
Sailing over the ocean blue. Davy's got a dinghy, so he paddles his own canoe. He's got the cutest little dinghy in the Navy, and all the girlies know that it's so. The cutest little dinghy in the Navy, they love to watch him go heave-ho. Now just for a lark, he went and painted it green. It's the only green dinghy that the girls have ever seen. The cutest little dinghy in the Navy, heave-ho, heave-ho. No other sailors This isn't an iceberg. Admiral has the flagship, the captain has the cruiser, but Davy's got a dinghy, it's a Lollapalooza. Davy! He got the cutest little dinghy in the Navy, and the old admiral was hurt today. If he had Davy's dinghy, he'd always feel free, ride away from night and day.
And that is one of the subtle numbers from the show. Katie Pees is here.
Oh my gosh!
That was so funny.
I don't know if I should be proud, embarrassed. There's a lot of mixed emotions right now about what I just watched.
Well, welcome. Thank you. So you were telling Lawrence and I off camera. I mean, what is the response to people to you? This is on YouTube. When they find this number, they probably think that you have a whole past that, well, you did have.
Yeah,
Yes.
They probably think I've been arrested and all sorts of crazy things. Well, I just finished, well, I'm about to finish my 13th year as a high school theater director.
Oh, wow.
And, students like to Google their teachers when they haven't met them. And the first thing that pops up when you Google me is this video. And they are, the eyes, the looks, some of them also not being surprised is disturbing to me. But I've been at my current school for 3 years. And I remembered at my interview, I said to the principal interviewing me, I said, if you do any checks on me on the internet, you're going to find a song called the Dinghy Song. And I explained it to him and his eyes get a little wide. And I said, but it's all in good fun. And I'm just pre-warning you that if that is going to be a deal breaker, then that's out there. So, of course, about an hour after I left the interview, he had watched it. And he called me and he said, so we want to hire you. So, I mean, it's crazy. You know, when I got the role, it really was life-changing for me. When I auditioned, Lawrence, I was not, because when I started, we were at Dillon. So we were still at the original spot when I auditioned for you.
You auditioned at the Triad.
Yes. So, I mean, I remember that audition clear as day. I went in belty and loud and over the top and all this stuff. When my agent told me about the audition, you know, I had been compared to Bette Midler a lot when I was younger. And she's like, think Bathhouse Betty and you're all set. And I was like, all right. But it was just a huge step in my career. I had, you know, been called in for many shows and gotten to like final callbacks, and then they would cast somebody who had a Broadway credit, and I didn't have one yet. And so I was like, well, I can't get a Broadway credit till you cast me. So so when I got the job with Boobs, it was awesome, and so many incredible memories. I was pushed in a lot of different directions that I hadn't been able to do yet, because most of the roles that I had been playing were just one character. And to do all the variety and to do all the dance numbers. And, you know, I just had a Zoom with Clyde about 3 months ago. He and his wife Zoomed with my students. And so I still have, you know, great friends and relationships with the cast members in New York. And, you know, often people, you know, ask me, I mean, my students ask me all the time, because they saw me do my most recent role. It was a year ago. It was right before COVID hit that I played Miss Hannigan. And they often say to me, they're like, why don't you perform anymore? And I said, well, I do. I said, I perform for you guys every day as a teacher. And, they talk to me a lot of times about my my training and how I learned to really be me and let go. And really, Lawrence, you and Donna and everybody, I mean, you really saw me for what I was all about, which is just, I mean, loud and funny is what I do. And, you really let me, really explore all that and play and be silly and add all that crap to the dingy song that Clyde was like, keep it coming. So it was so much fun because I always thought that if I was still in New York, that I don't know if I would have stayed with just, traditional musical theater. I always thought that maybe I would go out on my own and do a one-woman comedy review with songs and stuff. Like, I feel like that was really more my audience. So that I could be a little bit more over the top and do the quirky numbers and have my piano man be my best friend sitting there with me. So
when you came in an audition and you sang, I think you sang a song from Seesaw.
I
Was
did.
that right? Nobody Doesn't Like Me.
Yes, I did.
I remember the most minute details. I cannot tell you what I did yesterday or this morning, but I remember minute details. And I said to my assistant Chris, I said, she is phenomenal. I want her in the show. So I was just waiting for a spot to put you in. The same thing with Clive. Clive's agent had applied to us a few months towards the end of the Triad, and it's like, I want him in the show. So when we transferred to Dillon's with the new cast, I knew all the people that I wanted right away.
Yeah, it was awesome. I still remember like practicing the tap numbers with Clyde.
And I was so glad you could tap dance.
I Nola Studios, and I was like, I remember looking at him, and I was just like, dude, we gotta learn this like real quick. And he's like, yeah, we do. So
and
we
you did.
drill, and like, I also just remember coming back like off the stage at Dillon's because the backstage was so tight there, and that dress was so huge. And then getting the pizza on, I was like, I've never been wide.
Did you knock? I have to ask. Did you knock the drinks off the tables of the first tables?
Oh my gosh!
Did you walk by?
I mean, I think I mean, it was people would roll with it. I mean, it was just the costumes were so wide that I had to like manipulate them like over my head and face and like go like this. And Benji would be backstage ready to just like pull it off of me and throw it to the side and put the pizza on me. It was, I mean, but that's what I love about shows like Boobs. I love the fast pace. I love the energy and the family feeling that the cast has. I've only ever felt that one more time when I did Avenue Q and I played Kate and Lucy, and it's so fast and you're changing puppets and it's just manic backstage, but the thrill of that is just unreal. And the fact that I'm still such good friends with all of them. Alena was on the national tour of of Pippin. And she came through and she was the understudy of the leading player. And I saw her and like astonishing. But it's so fun to reflect back. I think we all were such babies. We were like in our 20s. And here we are doing these like incredible things. And I think, Lawrence, when you reflect back, you have to think about how amazing that is. I mean, you've molded some incredible people. And I think, we forget to thank people for that. So thank you, because you gave me the opportunity and not many people were. They would say to my agent, we love her. We don't know what to do with her.
Well, thank you. That makes me want to cry. I mean, this is the 18th anniversary, right?
Yeah.
But for Robert, it's the 20th anniversary because that's how long ago we did the workshop in 2000. Yeah. And I followed all of your careers all this time. And I feel like the proud parent I'm so thrilled for
Right.
everything that everyone has accomplished. I can't tell you how happy it makes me. And I'm friends with a lot of you on Facebook, and I love seeing your children. And it makes me very happy. And I really appreciate, because, you know, it was what it was at the time. And, you know, we're all finding our way through. And sometimes, you know, I think, oh, I hope people like enjoyed their experience. That's very important to me.
I
Well,
did.
speaking of experiences, one person that we're going to bring on right now, Lawrence, you said was there through practically every incarnation of the show, and that's Terrence Gardino. How did you and Terrence meet?
Uh, I've known Terry
Studio
since
54.
when it became a gay club
Okay.
in 83.
Studio
82.
54 was a gay club?
At the end,
I'm
when it
joking.
tanked. 1 year.
Spoiler alert. So how did your working relationship begin, either one of you?
Well, actually, I was, Lawrence was doing a lot of these, what do you call it? These fashion shows. Oh, I was the assistant to a major fashion stylist.
They're
And
Broadway
I-
musical industrials in Broadway theaters for one night, selling a product.
So I said to Leon Hall, who was my boss, I said,
God.
I says, why don't we do a fashion show with ballet dancers? Because I knew Lawrence and he was this big time ballet dancer, and Leon thought it was a great idea. And then I was the assistant with those shows. It was fantastic. Then I'm living in LA, and he says to me, I'm doing this show, Boobs, and we're looking for backers. Why don't you come in and see the show? And I did, and I met Robert. Hello, Robert. And
Hey.
and that was like 20 some years ago. That show was so funny. And every show I saw all three productions in New York City practically every night. I went to New Orleans and saw the whole opening night, and those next, it doesn't get, you don't get tired of it. It is a laugh riot.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it also had a long run, especially for a review in New York. You were nominated, Lawrence, you were nominated for a MAC Award.
I was.
And so let's go back to the workshop process. It took you 2 years to get it on the boards?
Well, after the workshop, let me just say something for 1 second before I forget. I want to acknowledge Stephen Bocchino, Robert, the musical director and arranger.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to
He's
say
marvelous.
how brilliant he was
Mhm.
and how instrumental he was
Glad
with the
you're
music
doing
and
that,
shaping it into something fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
right?
He was so good. He really, yes.
He was incredible, because
Incredible.
if there was ever like the smallest glitch, he was
Yes.
right there with you.
He sounded like, and he played on stage. He sounded like an orchestra.
He was
Mhm.
incredible, and
With the
so
piano.
so much more a partner to all of us than just the music. Like he
Yes.
was his own showman up there with us, and it was awesome. He was just
So to answer your question, after the workshop, one person came in with a substantial amount of money. And I was working on getting other backers and like building the whole show with different people to become involved and investors. And 9/11 happened.
Wow.
And everything, as you know, died in New York City. No one wanted to invest in a show. We never knew if New York City was going to come back, sort of like now.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, that one investor always kept his money in the show. So I went to friends of mine like Terrence, who also invested a small amount in the show, and other people who always stayed with the show and always believed in it and always loved it, who saw it in the workshop. And we just kept going on. And then I did 3 more backers auditions with the workshop cast, certain members of the cast. And on the 3rd one, I invited a friend of mine, Robert Pease, who became one of the costumes with Kevin Draves in the end. And he says, well, how much money do you need? And I said, well, we still need this amount. He says, well, I can raise the rest of that for you. It's like, oh my God, we have a show. So then I had to find a theater, and everything was booked in New York. And I finally found the Triad, and the show happened. It was truly meant to be, because I've worked on other projects before, and they just did not happen. And,
Well,
and
you know,
things,
there are a lot of
shows that are meant to happen.
there are a lot of great reviews that originated in that space.
Yes.
Brad and Spamilton, Forbidden Broadway. Was the location problematic, or were audiences? Did it take a while for the audiences to find you, or were they there from the very beginning?
They're there from the very beginning. However, off-Broadway, you sell a lot of tickets at TKTS, and tourists are scared to go to 72nd Street. I know that sounds sort of funny, but they either have to get in a cab or get on the subway, and they'd rather see a show in the area. So that's why we eventually moved down to Dillon's, which is Midtown.
Across from Studio 54.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So you made full circle there.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
Who
So-
knew?
You also, I mean, I know that Ruth Wallace came to the opening night when it was at the Triad. Am I mistaken on that, or is that right?
And she came one of the first nights to the workshop, and she met Robert and Jenny-Lynn and
Yeah.
Kristy Cates and all those people.
Yes.
I have photographs of all of you with her.
I'd love to see him. It's.
Oh, I'll
it's
send them
just-
to you.
Would love it. Yeah.
So did you all get a chance to meet her? And if so, what were your individual experiences meeting her?
Katie, did you get to meet her?
I did not.
It's hard. I was literally, Richard, I've been thinking of back in time as much as I could. And I want to say that when she came, I want to say she was totally humble, because I know she was, but I'm trying to remember what she wore. And I keep seeing this image. Am I right? Did she have on a black hat? Was she kind of like hiding herself, or was she out and about? Do you remember, Lawrence?
I don't remember. I just remember the red hair.
The red hair.
And she loved you guys.
Yeah.
She could
What were
not
yeah?
stop
Some
talking.
you tell us then, because what were some of her comments, if you recall?
Oh, she said, I'm so proud to be honored like this. She said, your
Aw.
cast is so talented. They sing so much better than I ever sang myself.
Oh no.
Yes, she did.
What a sweet thing to say. What a sweet thing to say. I remember Ron Palillo coming to the show.
Yes.
You know, there was a total TV hero of mine. That was nice to see him there. But Terrence, it's like you said a bit ago, audiences laughed so much at this show. And that was the thing, I was telling my daughter about it earlier today. I was driving her to school, and I was telling her that I was going to be on Zoom later tonight, talk about Boobs, the musical. My 12-year-old daughter. And she's laughing, she's bred, great vocabulary. She has her own YouTube channel. She cooks and bakes,
Good for her. That's
She's
great.
wonderful. Her name's, it's called Rain's Real Bites. Raine, Rain's Real Bites. So I was telling her about Boobs, the history of the herstory of Ruth Wallace. And the thing I said to her, Terrence, was, it's one thing, I think there are different levels of when you are an entertainer. And when you're an entertainer, there's so many different levels of artistry of entertainment. And this style of show is a totally different style of entertainment. You either know how to do this style of entertainment or comedy and satire, or you don't, all right? But the thing I remember is, I love moving people with whatever I'm doing, if it's singing, if it's cabaret, if it's any kind of show or whatever. But I get a bigger and always have a bigger kick out of being silly and entertaining people by just laughing themselves silly. And this show, that's all it did, man. It was the greatest feeling to come from a lifestyle of growing up watching Johnny Carson with guests like Robin Williams and guests like Steve Martin. And, you know, those are your icons as you're growing up. And there's a lot of that, you know, everybody sees and reads and watches whatever they are growing up, and that's going to infiltrate into your DNA regardless. So there's a little bit of rock and roll Johnny Carson in me, and there's this goofy side of Robin Williams that I never got to express except in college. So the fact that I was able to do this side of the entertainment with a satire, a great, fun, you know, lyrical show. And I mean, Katie, by the way, that was an incredibly funny footage and performance of what you did with the Dingy song. I forgot about that song until you started singing. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this song. But you were so awesome on that. But Terrence, anyway, I'm loud gabbing. But the bottom line is, like, people laughed all the time. It was so entertaining. I never remembered a lull. And I can remember times, it's also, Katie, you could probably express this as well. When you're an entertainer, you are involved with very, very, very new projects and workshops or whatever. There's the good and there's the bad and there's the ugly that we've all experienced. And it's really, in a situation like this, when you're all throwing stuff on the wall to see what sticks, it's also important for actors to make sure that we don't have egg on our face. Because if we have egg on our face, it's the worst feeling in the world. And you know, Lawrence never, like, he would listen and there was times I'd be like, Lawrence, this moment's making me feel like eggy, and he totally like reworked it so we would be eggless. So that's comforting, you know, for when you're an actor. You know, you want to feel good on stage, or the audience will read it. You know, they'll read it.
Someone else has just joined us, and I'm going to bring him into the room now. And here's Eric Harriz.
Hello.
Eric.
Hey, Eric Harriz.
It's good seeing you all again after all these years.
You too.
You too.
So it's great to have you here with us, Eric. Can you tell us about your experience with Boobs? That's the musical.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
It was a very exciting and interesting experience for me. I had met Lawrence, I guess, some years before, and correct me, Lawrence, if I'm wrong. And we had both had a mutual friend, Anna Marie D'Angelo, who I had worked with a couple of different times down in Monterrey, Mexico. I designed some ballets for her, and somehow Lawrence
dancer for the Joffrey Ballet.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And I think also you danced with her at the Joffrey, didn't you, Florence?
We performed together. We were supposed to go to Cuba together, and I couldn't get my passport, my visa.
Yeah.
And we also knew Louis, that you designed a
Louis
set for.
Magruder. Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and he was a Penn State alum, and I'm a Penn State alum.
Yes.
So, and somehow or other, the two of you knew each other, and then somehow we got connected.
He was my neighbor.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
And then, and that's what, you know, brought the two of us together.
Yes.
And then Lawrence reached out and said, "Hey, I'm working on this project. Are you interested?" And he, you know, gave me what materials there were at the time to, you know, look at, and I thought it was really interesting, and it was so tongue in cheek, and I love that sort of thing. And we really had to do it on a tight budget at the Pulse the first time, and then things opened up a little bit for the next two venues that we moved to. And what was really at the Pulse, we didn't really have much to go on in terms of, you know, what the look of the show should be. So it was really just trying to get some vague imagery to sort of draw people in and make it interesting, but focus on the characters. The whole idea is we didn't want to take focus from the characters because it was such a character-driven production. And then when we moved, what was the next venue, Lawrence, that we moved to?
Triad.
The Triad and the Dillons.
When we moved to the Triad, and we ended up with a new director. First, Sean Churchman did it at the Pulse, and then Donna Drake was the director. at the
Right.
Triad,
Oh.
and she I guess she had seen pictures of what we had done at the Pulse, and she felt that moving to the Triad, we would, have to really take it up a notch. And I said, I can do anything you'd like as long as we have a little more money. You can get whatever you'd like, just give me something, to work with. And so then Robert Pease came on as the costume designer. And he had created some really amazing costumes. And Katie, I know we were just talking, I guess, about the costume that he created for you in the dinghy number. And there was some amazing costumes throughout the show. And again, not only were we now featuring the actors and actresses, but we had to feature those costumes. So the set had to really be very subtle and just have images that sort of created a sensuous environment. And it was really what I told Robert when he found out that I was redesigning the set. He was a little surprised that I had the opportunity to redesign the set, and I don't know how he felt that was going to affect him. And I said, what I did is create a little jewel box to feature your amazing costumes, and that put him at ease. And it's really what the set ended up being. It was just a little jewel box. We had some satins and velvets and sheer sheers that just sort of created just a boudoir type effect. And I liked what we ended up with in both the two subsequent productions, and I thought they worked well.
I liked all three.
How long were you actually at the Triad?
How many weeks do you mean?
Yes.
Lawrence, you're going to have to answer that question.
We ran for over 10 months altogether, almost a year. At the Triad, I think we were there for 8 months, and at Dillon's for like 2.5 months, something like that.
While you were at the Triad, were you looking for more Midtown locations while that was happening? Was that why the move to Dillon's took place?
I had in the back of my mind, but the Triad had some other show offer coming in, and we were sort of forced to move. So I got my general manager and my producers together, and we started figuring out a new place to go, and that's how we ended up at Dillon's with Scott Barberino.
Barberino, who's watching tonight. So thank you
Hi,
for being
Scott.
here. I want to ask each of you a question, and I'm going to start with you, Lawrence. What was the biggest impact that Boobs, again the musical, has made on your life, and what do you think is the biggest contribution that you have brought to this show in terms of moving it forward, keeping Ruth Wallace's music out there?
This is a big question. I'm sort of humbled by it, I guess. I became friends with Ruth Wallace during the workshop, and she would call me up very often, and she would say, I love you like I love my own son. And she meant it. And by the time we got to the Triad, she started slipping with her memory. And we discovered that she had the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. Wow. So I always felt very protective of her and her legacy. And she would always call me up until like the last couple of years before she passed. So I never made any money from doing the show ever. I know some people thought I made all this money. I made nothing. I put everything back in just to keep the show running because I wanted the actors and everybody else to be employed. So it's a project of love for me, and that's the way I look at the show.
And Robert, I ask you the same question.
As I unmute, because I got dogs running around everywhere,
No, that's fine. We love dogs.
You know what? the thing is, for me, it's like it was just an added layer of growth for me as an actor. When you go to New York, all you want to do is do what we do. That's it. And this was a platform to do it all. I was like, whoa, man, I get to play like 12 different wacky characters and sing this great music with these great people, everyone, the whole team. So for me, the way I look at it is, for me, it was just an added layer, an added step in the progress of me just continuing to do and bust it on the streets of New York. This was just, it was like I was telling the kids this morning. I said, this was such a great time that I remember, because I remember the energy. I remember the energy of just like, come on, let's go, come on, guys. It was like we were doing like SNL style stuff with music.
Yes.
So I truthfully remember the go get 'em energy from everybody. And, that's what New York energy is when you're an actor, no matter how old you are, no matter when you get started and when you come to the city. Everybody's got that amazing drive of team, let's do it. Everybody has the same dream, like, we're going to be on Broadway, so you go for it. So that's what I remember. I remember the energy of this show and being able to just let loose. And it was, again, I'll just say it again, it was just an added layer of growth.
That's great.
Yeah.
Katie?
I mean, I remember when I got the call that I got the role, and I just sat there and cried, because I was, I had just been fighting so long. I was always like the second person in line for the role. I was always we love her, but not yet, or, what have you. And, Lawrence finally saw it, and I was able to just blossom. And it felt so freeing that I could just do me and do what I love and explore and create and have fun and be challenged all in one show. And, musical comedy has always been my thing, but also at the level of where Boobs was, the very vaudeville sort of, slightly pushing that edge. How far can I go with the dingy song? How far is too far? Not far enough. But, you never, I always just love pushing the boundaries as a comedian. And of course, I just love, singing the brassy, bright, all the character stuff. And, as I reflect now as a teacher and someone who's still performing, as I said earlier, when you Google me, this is the first thing that comes up. But my students love it. They love seeing me practice what I preach, because they're looking at me on stage, and I might say one day, okay, remember when I did that number in Boobs the Musical? I said, this is this kind of like over the top. And they'd be like, oh, okay. So I think that, it molded me in so many wonderful ways. It made me realize that I am unique in my abilities, and that's okay. I just have to find these special moments to really embrace and grow. And I was so sad when it closed, because I thought I was in my little groove, and that this was going to be the next step to something else. But I know that it gave for me that final stamp of approval of who I was as a performer and as a comedian was, you're doing okay. Like, you're doing the right thing. And this was the first time that I felt someone was saying, what you have is really great to offer, and we're going to embrace it and keep pushing you. Because before it was always like, too short, too loud, not Barbara Streisand enough, too Bette Midler. I heard that all the time. So I just was so grateful for what I've learned and what I continue to use. Oh, Barbara.
Not Barbara Streisand enough.
Exactly. Well, I had $1 for every time I was called Penny Bryce, and they told me that I'd be a millionaire. So,
I agree.
But I just, and it's so fun. Like, I love when the students Google it and they're like, Boobs the Musical, and I was like, listen,
It's amazing.
let me talk to you about what it is. And then when they got to Zoom with Clyde, they were like, oh my gosh, it's Davey and his dinghy. It was hysterical. And like, and here's my dog Maddie again.
Hi, baby.
And like, and I just laugh about it all the time, because, now we're both parents, and like, this is like on the internet forever. And my son just turned 10. So we both have little boys. And it's just like, oh my gosh, when their girlfriends start Googling mom. And I told my son, I go, you do realize I'm already going to be that mom at school dances. I said, so just, embrace it. So
you can tell them that Ruth Wallace told me boobs means fools.
Yes, exactly.
Everything she wrote was double entendre.
Yep.
Yes, that's what it's about.
You have to be, and that's such a thing that I tell my students all the time. You have to give yourself the freedom to be silly and look ridiculous. And you also have to remember that it's not you. You're creating these characters. And as soon as you can get over that hump and be that, it is so freeing. And, it's amazing to watch. And it absolutely, Boobs gives you that okay to be even more ridiculous.
I love that you said the word vaudeville. I forgot to say that word. That's such a vaudeville. When you said that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, and it has that essence to it. It's very vaudeville, and I love that old vaudeville, all the old footage, all the old stories. So, yeah. Thanks for saying that. I agree with you on that.
The humor, I feel like the humor was very vaudeville because it's it happens so quickly and it's very intelligent. So if you're not really listening, you're not gonna laugh. And I remember one night, this is probably like the third weekend. Lawrence, I don't even know if you know this story or not. There was this guy in the front row and he was not having me. He was like, you can just tell he wasn't into what I was doing. So I went out and, for the dingy song, I had my lollipop and I was like, listen, mister, he's gonna like me or I'm gonna shove this lollipop. He's got the cutest little, I was like, and everybody just went right with it. And that he turned on it. I think he just was like, he wasn't allowing himself just to have fun. People get so uptight when they're in shows like this and they don't know how to react. And I'm like, dude, just laugh at the penis jokes. Just laugh at the boobs. Hey, like, that's what this is all about. We're just having silly fun, and to laugh at those things and just be human, like, that's okay.
My favorite audiences was when we had theater parties come in from New Jersey at the Triad. And those ladies were there to party and to get drunk.
Yeah.
They laughed their butts off. It was those audiences were the best. They screamed laughing from the beginning to the end. I love those nights.
Yeah.
Well, Terrence, I want to ask you, what was the biggest impact that this has had on you? And you saw the production more than just about anyone, if not anyone.
Well, I felt like I had a life because I'm stuck in LA doing my thing, kind of bored. I had, when I turned 20, tried to go into show business. And I did one show, but I was, intimidated, didn't believe in myself. And then to get involved with that community and that show, it was so much fun. It gave me life.
And what about you, Eric?
I really enjoyed working with the cast and working with Lawrence, working with the writers, the musical director. Great group of people, really great group of people. It's just a really talented group of people. So that just always makes me, really excited about getting up and doing what I do. And then when Donna Drake actually sort of throwing down the gauntlet and saying, hey, we need to pick up the level here. We need to step up the level. That's actually a great thing for a designer to hear, is that, the director is looking for something that he or she hasn't seen yet. And so you're like, as long as, and my response to her was, I will give you anything you want. Just give me something to work with, money wise. And that happened. And it wasn't a huge budget, but it was more than we were working with at the Pulse. But it allowed me then to bring in some of the lush things that I was able to bring onto stage. And so I also was really thankful that Lawrence brought me in on it because I got to put my stamp on a brand new production. And that's always pretty thrilling. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I love being the first person to put their stamp on a character or, the environment. And this was such an interesting project because it was such a nebulous environment. We came up with a bunch of different ideas. One of the set design ideas was actually the exterior of an airfield with a pile of suitcases that she, as if
she had just arrived in Australia, probably.
Exactly. It just gotten off a plane, had all the luggage dumped there, and then the whole show basically comes out of the luggage, and that was one idea that I don't know if Lawrence, if that ever even got to you. I don't know if
no, it didn't.
Okay. So I thought that was a pretty exciting idea, but it was way too expensive. And so we had to find some sort of middle ground. But that's interesting too, that it sort of forces you to look in different directions. So it was a really exciting project for me. And I hope that, what we ended up coming up with, and also what Robert came up with was all symbiotic and worked together really well with the concept that the writers had, Lawrence had, Donna had, and I felt it was a pretty successful production.
I thought all three of your designs for all three productions were spot on.
Thank you.
I've looked at them recently. It's like, oh my God, his ideas are so brilliant for each of the three spaces. 2-time Emmy-winning Eric here.
Thank you.
And at the Triad, that stage was so friggin' little when we walked in there.
That's true.
Eric, like a hero, walked in and built a whole new stage at the Triad, much larger. And Eric, it's still there. I was there recently.
You're kidding? It's still there?
And somebody asked me if I'd ever been here before. I said yes.
Oh my gosh.
And we paid for that stage.
That's right.
My set designer built that.
They
Eric.
actually offered me a job there as like their technical director. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
a designer, I'm not a TV. But it was very flattering that they liked, like the fact that they liked the the extension that we did so much that they kept it. That was pretty fantastic.
Still there.
That's great.
Now I have another clip that I'm going to share with all of you, and then I will say our closing remarks in just a moment.
Hey there, David Villella here. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be a part of today's Zoom reunion. The good news is I actually have a rehearsal for a gig. I'm out here in Vegas, and after having no gigs for quite some time, I'll take what I can get. But I'm just sad that I couldn't be a part of the call and see all of those amazing faces that I miss terribly. Boobs was a special production for me. So many fun memories. I loved being able to be on stage dressed as a woman for the first time. That hadn't happened. I don't know if it's happened since actually, but what a fun time that was. And us sort of, making those tiny little dressing rooms at the back of the Triad, which was so lovely. Us being elbow to elbow, trying to make that work, which we did. But so many amazing friends and the talent in that cast. Everyone has gone on to do such wonderful things. I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. I'm just saying, maybe there's a chance there could be a little production of Boobs out here in Vegas. Just saying. If Menopause the Musical can do it for as many years as they had been able to do it, why not bring Boobs? And this town is all about boobs, let's be honest. Anyway, love to you all. I'm so sorry I couldn't be a part of the call. Maybe we can have another one sometime and I can be a part of it. But thank you, love you, and be well.
Just the best.
Nice guy.
He reminded me, I was lucky enough to be very good friends with Dodie Goodman. And she called me up one night. Puppetry of the Penis was in town, and the Vagina Monologues. And she called, and Boobs. And she called me up and she said, "I think we should do these shows in repertory." But anyway, I want to, the one theme that runs through all of you is collaboration. You all came together and you created alchemy. You created magic. You were able, thanks to the creative team and allowing you not to check your egos at the door, but to be able to soar with what each of you brought to the table. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to be respectful of the time of everyone that was here tonight. Thank you for joining us in this reunion. And I hope that we'll all come back together again when you're ready to open in the next production of Boobs. But before you go tonight, if you are here for the first time, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. All of you, including all that are in the show tonight, please leave a comment on YouTube. Hit the like button, because that will increase the viewership of this particular video, and it will be up for others to see later on. So Katie, your students will be able to watch this at any time. So we're there. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and go to the third name that pops up and reach out with a phone call, not an email, not a text message, not a private message, a phone call, and let those people know what they mean to you. And then you're going to go to Amazon.com and you're going to order 2 copies of Ruth Wallace's Boobs. You're going to keep one for yourself, and you're going to send one to that third person on the list. You will change their lives, trust me. And as a dear friend of mine says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same, he says boat, I'm going to say dinghy. But if you're going to be in that dinghy, make sure that you bring a skipper along. So before we end tonight, I'm going to give each of you a chance. I'm actually going to leave the screen because this night is about all of you. And I'll start with Lawrence, then Robert, then Katie, Terrence, and we'll end with you, Eric. And any final message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching now. It could be to build upon anything that we talked about tonight that you just want to build upon. Anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone who's watching now. As I said at the beginning of my show is about celebrating, and all of you are worth celebrating. And thanks for spending an hour with me this evening. It means the world. Thank you.
Thank you for your words.
Richard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lawrence, you start.
Oh, okay. I'm so humbled you guys are all here tonight. You have no idea how much you mean to me. I want to start crying, but I might.
It's all right.
It was almost a 21-year-long journey now. And I really did this out of love from the bottom of my heart. As I said, I never made a cent. But when I knew Ruth's health was not doing well, I wanted to carry the torch for her memory. And I'm so thrilled you're all part of it. You all added so much, and I'm eternally grateful. I often think of all of you and the people who couldn't be here tonight. They all text in and said to send their love to you, and Alena Watters and Rebecca Young and all these people. Wish that they could be here tonight. Some are working, some have family things going on, but you've all meant the world to me, and I'm so proud of each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.
So much. I'll say, and I'll just say, I'm humbled that, I guess the message I just want to send to anyone like that, my words of wisdom mean diddly, because they don't. I can just speak that if you're working with people, just make sure that you stay a nice person, because obviously we all were nice people. That's why we're still able to call up at the moments, 20 years later, and just sit like this and just smile and just think about the good old days. And in times like this, it's so important to have good old days to think about. So I appreciate the good old days, Lawrence, and thank you so much for, bringing something to life that, she never thought in a million years that her stuff would be seeing the lights of what you've given it, the New York stage that you've given it to, and all the audiences that laughed their tails off, so she may have had her time and her day, but you were able to give her a whole other time and a whole other day in a whole other way. So for that, you should be, and I know you are very, very proud of that, and you should be. And I know that we're all proud that we were a little part of that.
Yeah.
What a cool thing. So thanks again. Glad I
Thank
could
you
be
so-
here.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah.
Give my love to Jenny-Lynn.
I will.
Yeah, I want to just piggyback on what Robert just said. It's so much about relationships in the world of theater and good communication and, having those bonds for life. And, Lawrence, you and I have talked on and off for years about like something random I would see you post. I love seeing all your pictures from like old Broadway shows. I mean, you're just incredible. And where I am in my life now as a teacher and, from what you gave me and Boobs, it's so much what I'm trying to do with these teenagers. You gave me the stage to really be confident in who I was and what I wanted to do. You let me soar. You laughed at my ridiculousness because you thought it was brilliant and not stupid. And I take those moments and I just keep them very close to my heart because I want my own students and the kids that I direct to be able to reflect back and be like, that person mattered. That person left a huge, stamp on my life. And I'll be forever grateful for that experience. And even when we were talking about this reunion, you and I had a conversation one night, back and forth, very, formal on GroupMe Messenger. But, but even then I was having some self-doubts about things. And even then you still were like, nope, you got this and you got this and you got this. And it's just nice to still have someone who's so much in your corner, even though we haven't seen each other in so long. And I know for a fact that you will always be there. So thank you for all of you've given me, and thank you for laughing at my ridiculousness.
So Lawrence, I was so surprised you invited me on the show. Thank you. I'm just loving it. What's missing is the pizza song. The Dingy song was my second favorite song, but it was the pizza song, which I would scream laugh. Oh my God. Lawrence, do you have a copy of that?
I do. It's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
That's something that was created new for the Triad, right, Robert? That wasn't in the polls.
I'm trying to think of that. All I know is all I can tell you is that Terrence, none of those songs are mine. Just letting you know.
Yeah, we added that for the Triad.
Oh my God. Well, we're looking forward to going to Canada. We're going to hopefully go to London. This is going to go on forever because the show just doesn't stop. It's just amazing. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Terry.
P.S. I'm up for a show in Vegas.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Well, in terms of words of wisdom for me, the only thing I can think of is that one, you should definitely take out any opportunity that you can. If you're offered an opportunity, just take it and do your absolute best and enjoy it. And hopefully you find a group of people that you enjoy working with, and that makes the experience all that much better. And I was grateful that I found such a group in the Boobs cast and the producers and choreographers and directors and all that. Lawrence, I would really appreciate the fact that you took a chance on the guy that, you basically, I think actually we met in a restaurant.
We met at this health food restaurant on 46 on the corner. Kevin Bacon used to go there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny that, that chance meeting led to the collaboration that we had. But I guess stranger things have happened, and I'm definitely more open to those sort of things now than I guess I was in the past, because, you know, such great things happen when you just stay open. So I guess that's another word of wisdom: stay open.
I think you were designing on All My Children at the time. I remember coming to All My Children to
Right.
see you at one
Right.
point to discuss something.
Yeah, that was some fun times. I worked with another wonderful designer, Boyd Dumrose, and he's actually retired and living in Hawaii now.
Woo!
It was just his birthday, so I actually have to call him up. But
That's nice. Happy birthday.
yeah, and
Happy
that's
birthday.
again, when you were talking about keeping in touch, Katie, that's really what it's all about: keeping those contacts open, even if they're not leading to anything in terms of our professional, advancement or anything like that. But it's really the personal that makes this business worthwhile, I think.
Absolutely.
And there's fantastic people you meet along the way.
Yes, you guys. Well, this has been so great. Gosh darn, what a nice way to spend a Friday night.
That's
Yeah,
right.
great. I love you guys.
You
Love
too,
you
you guys.
too.
Really nice time. Thanks to Richard Skipper and everybody out
Yes,
there. Thank
thank
you,
you,
Boobs,
Richard.
and thank you, Ruth Wallace.
Yes,
See the
thank you,
post.
Rudy.